by all accounts, I shouldn't even be here tonight, should I?
Get in the shot! Clang, clang, clang with the trolley. Brent Albright!
I taste my own blood.
$1 million body, 10-cent brain.
I don't care. The championship is here. The champ is home. Puerto Rico, I love it. Vanderpyle, I love it. Marquez, I love it. I love it.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Tonight, we're dedicating the entire hour to the NWA Worlds Heavyweight Championship and the man who currently travels the globe defending it, the Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. Since 1948, only 42 men have ever been announced as being the world's champion of the National Wrestling Alliance. Many of these men are icons of professional wrestling, and several are enshrined in the NWA Hall of Fame. But this evening belongs to Adam, and in a moment, he'll be joining me for a one-on-one, no-holds-barred interview about his 15-year pro wrestling career tonight on NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Welcome back. This week's NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is a very special one because tonight we welcome the world's heavyweight champion himself, the Scrap Iron, Adam Pearce, for the entire hour. So Adam, thanks for joining us.
Well, Marquez, look at this wonderful thing. This is what you've come into, huh? This is Championship Wrestling from Hollywood's on the air.
It sure is, and we're very happy to have you here. So let's take the viewers into your life a little bit. Why don't you tell us, where are you from?
Going back, David Marquez, and of course you know this, and for you people at home who are unaware, you'll learn really quickly that I come from Chicago, Illinois. Some would say the mean streets. I call it home. And my father, who was an industrial mechanic for near 40 years, instilled in me the hard work and dedication that it takes to be great at anything you do from a very young age. And moving here near 10 years ago, I found that people on the left coast, as I call it, seem to lack that integrity that people like myself, champions, are used to.
Okay. Now the Midwest, you know, in that area, an awful lot of superstar talent has come out of there. Now, at what age did you find pro wrestling?
Well, as you know, the Midwest was a stronghold in those days for Vern Gagne's AWA. And growing up watching his product, All Star Wrestling on television, you'd see people like Vern Gagne, people like Larry the Axe Hennig, people like the Bruiser and the Crusher and Baron von Raschke and the like. So I think at age 6 was my first live professional wrestling event in Milwaukee at the Mecca Arena, which is still in use, but not by professional wrestling at this point. And I want to say Larry Zbyszko might have been on that card.
No, Larry Zbyszko. It's funny you bring up Larry. For the viewers at home, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but Adam was scheduled to wrestle Larry Zbyszko at one time.
Yes. It wouldn't have been much of a match, would it, Marquez?
Well, maybe not today. I'm not too terribly sure. I know an awful lot of us wanted to see it.
Larry Zbyszko couldn't lace my boots on his best day, Marquez.
Okay. Well, let's talk about inspiration now. And maybe Larry was a piece of that inspiration. Who did you look up to back then when you were finding professional wrestling? Who on television really captured your imagination?
It's something that someone like you wouldn't be accustomed to, Marquez, growing up with the slight of pedigree that I have. The instilled toughness and the ability to strive and reach for a greatness that most mortal men can't attain. You look to people who would be on that level, contemporaries of that ilk, if you will. So men like Jack Briscoe, men like the Nature Boy Ric Flair, men like Rick Steamboat, men like Harley Race, perhaps the toughest person ever walked the planet, or maybe the rattlesnake himself, Terry Funk. People like this are who inspired me to become the great champion, as you can see, that I am.
That's right. So all those men, of course, are double tough, and I don't think we'll ever disagree with that. And I've heard many of their stories about their first matches, too. Can you take us back, and do you remember much about your first match?
I remember it like it was yesterday. This is the pinnacle, the starting point, you know, if you will, the big bang of this pro wrestling universe exploding for me at a very young age. I was 17 years old, a senior in high school at Waukegan, Illinois. And I remember going into the arena that night. I was a part of a 6-man tag team attraction, coupled with my trainers, Sonny Rogers and Randy Ritchie, who spent many years traversing the wrestling globe, as it were, and being wet behind the ears and not quite certain of what to expect, you run the gamut of emotions. And that all stops when you enter the ring, because now it becomes a combat situation. And whether it's one-on-one, two-on-two, or a six-man tag where you've got 3 people on either side of the ring, you now enter that danger zone. And when war begins, it's either kill or be killed, fight or flight. And on that night, which I'm not ashamed to say in the least, began the pattern of many a winning way. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
The winner's side of the purse. The cashola, you know what I mean, goes in the winner's side is much larger than the loser's side. And, well, we continue that tradition, don't we?
Absolutely, we sure do. Now, you know, is it what you expected from what you saw on television to actually being in there competing?
You know, you ask any athlete in any situation, I don't care what sport it is, football, baseball, basketball, when you are in the ring, professional wrestling ring, and you're staring down a man 16, 18, 20 feet across from you, and you know that his sole purpose, his goal, is to take you down to the mat and pin your shoulders 1, 2, 3, or have you quit and submit like a sissy in front of everybody in the arena. Everything goes out the window. So expectations really mean nothing. The point is moot. Like I said 15, 20 seconds ago, it's kill or be killed. Only one man can walk out the winner, and that man 9 times out of 10 is me.
Okay, now, so in your wildest dreams, did you ever think that you'd be named the NWA Worlds Heavyweight Championship? Not once, but 3 times now.
When we're talking about champions in professional wrestling, I think that anybody with any knowledge of our history would tell you that the National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Championship, the 10 pounds of gold sitting before you, is the pinnacle. That is the goal. That is the most prestigious, the most revered, the greatest honor a professional wrestler can have bestowed upon him. And as you stated, I've had this honor, this privilege 3 times. Now, did I think that was going to happen when I began? Did I really think that at 17 years old I was going to one day reach the top of the mountain, as it were? Absolutely. Absolutely. When you are like I am, brother, when you are great from get-go, from Jump Street, there's only one goal, and it's sitting right in front of you.
Okay. Now, that's great stuff so far, and we do have to take a break. But when we return, we're going to take the people right here through the process of how you became the world's heavyweight champion the first time. It's a very interesting story. So that, when we come back, do return. Welcome back. So, Adam, on May 13, 2007, NWA Executive Director Bob Trowbridge announced that the organization was ending its 5-year relationship with TNA Wrestling, and then we stripped Christian Cage of the world's title, making it vacant. First, my first question is, do you remember what your reaction was to the news when the tournament was announced and your name was included as part of the participants, and what was going through your mind?
I think it was at that point where it became clear to me what my destiny was, David Marquez. And as I stated before, anytime you've embarked on this great journey through professional wrestling and made this your career path, and you know that you devote yourself every minute of every day to becoming the best champion you can be, then there's only one title that you need to go after. And when TNA Wrestling did what they did and cost themselves the greatest prize in our sport, and Robert Trowbridge, our esteemed, and I use that term extremely loosely, executive director, made the decision to bring the belts home, as it were, I was lobbying already and had my management calling the offices in Charlotte, North Carolina, because I was making demands immediately that I wanted the opportunity to prove not only to people like you and Bob Trowbridge in Charlotte, North Carolina, but to the wrestling world how great Scrap Iron Adam Pearce is. And when I got that phone call, I thought it was simply vindication.
All right. So now Bryan Danielson was set to compete against Brent Albright in the finals in the championship tournament in Puerto Rico, but Bryan had an unfortunate accident. Tell us about that and how you were granted his spot in Puerto Rico against Brent Albright.
When I think about that situation as a whole, I think about the word fate. And people will tell you, David Marquez, and you may have a monkey in the truck rolling footage, as it were. Bryan Danielson defeated me in the semifinals of that tournament to reclaim the glory that was the NWA Worlds Heavyweight Championship. And I remember that night in Vancouver, British Columbia, thinking that my dreams and aspirations had come crashing down on me. And then a week and a half later or so, if I remember correctly, in New York City, I was on another card with Bryan Danielson, and he faced a tough Japanese monster named Takeshi Morishima, who dotted his eye, as it were, and he suffered a detached retina and was immediately hospitalized and taken out of the tournament. And once again, I thought that when one door closes, inevitably another opens, and that fate, that word that I go back to, kind of rears its ugly head again. So phone calls from people like you and Bob Trowbridge in Charlotte, North Carolina, calling me and saying, even though I had been defeated in the semifinals, now that there was a spot available, it made only sense to them and obviously to me that if Danielson couldn't continue, then the man he faced in the semis should, and that man was me, and I went to Puerto Rico.
And not only did you go to Puerto Rico, but you became the world's heavyweight champion. And if I remember correctly, well, number one, we invited Brian to be the special guest referee, enforcer on the outside, and then what happened, and you left the world's heavyweight champion. But if I remember correctly, Brent Albright was not happy with the outcome of that match.
Why would it be? People who lose for their life aren't happy with a lot of things. People who always finish second don't have a lot to be happy about, do they? So when I went to Puerto Rico and I set myself up for one goal, and that was simply to take the World's Heavyweight Championship by whatever means necessary, I did just that. And as you said, Bryan Danielson, who couldn't be there competing, fate, there again, rear ends and ugly head, comes down as the official. Now, there were some complaints from the other side of the ring that Bryan Danielson was wearing an eye patch to protect that injured eye, wouldn't be able to call the match right down the middle. But as people have seen for the last 3 or 4 years, he made the right call, and the right man to be the world's heavyweight champion was crowned on that night in Puerto Rico.
That's right. You know, I was there, and it was a very amazing night. Now, you held the title for about 336 days before you lost it to Brent Albright in New York City. Now, that was a very special occasion, not just because of the magnitude of the event, but the town that it was in. Now, tell us about that night.
I think if I'm going to tell you about that night, I have to back up a little bit and talk about someone who, I think through the annals of battle and through the chapters of war, you have to find yourself, even if you don't want to, you find yourself with a growing respect for someone, for your adversary. And I think that would mark the first time in the 15-year career that I've had where I really had a vendetta and I had a blood feud. And I had somebody who, no matter how many times I would put him down, would continue to rise up and come back for a second round. And that man was Brent Albright. And we went all over the United States, all over North America, mind you, Mexico City, Canada, Chicago, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Georgia, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Corpus Christi, Texas, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Mexico City, and he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop. I did everything I could to put this man down. I threw fire in his face. I spit on his family name. I did my best to put my management team in front of him and stop him from any claims he may have had for wanting a shot at the World's Heavyweight Championship. And our promotional partners on that night in New York, Ring of Honor Wrestling, they stepped up and for some reason elected to make this match, elected to bring the NWA World title to New York City. And I don't need to tell you what happened, but injustice was served that night, wasn't it, Marquez? And you were there in all your glory, happy. Real happy too, weren't you?
Well, it was a great night. Brent Albright winning the World's Heavyweight Championship in New York City in front of all those people. You know, true wrestling fans know what that means in that town.
True wrestling fans know that when they watch that championship match, they know that I was robbed. True wrestling fans who were in New York City that night, who will remember that match for the rest of their lives, with two men spilling blood, fighting, kicking, clawing, scratching, paying the price. Blood, sweat, and tears.
All right.
Don't cut me off, Marquez. I'll stop when I'm ready to stop. Brent Albright that night cemented his legacy as the heavyweight championship of the world, and he did it at my expense. And you think I'm over it? I'm not over it. I'll never be over it. But who's got the gold now?
Well, of course you do.
You're damn right.
You sure do. Now, this is a pro wrestling program after all, and this is the time when we're going to run an actual match. Now, this is going to be an encounter that you had with Brent Albright, and this took place on October 4th, 2008 in Robstown, Texas. Check this out.
We come to you from Robstown, Texas for an NWA Championship match. Bullrope rules in effect as you see the champion, Adam Pearce, in a tug-of-war, if you will, with shooter Brent Albright. And fittingly enough, these two have had a tug-of-war over the prestigious NWA Championship for quite a while, and this may finally be the match that'll settle the score. Look at these quick peppering jabs here by the challenger. And he is starting quick. Really out of the blocks quick as the challenger. And again, got to go over the rules here, fans. And quite frankly, I am very surprised that the NWA would sanction such a violent match for the title. But you have to drag your opponent to all four corners in succession to win the match. And of course, leave with the NWA Heavyweight Championship of the world. Not going to be easy when you think of how tough these two competitors are. And there you see Pearce and Albright just trading left and right. Again, you'll remember it was Adam Pearce in controversial fashion won the NWA World Heavyweight title for the first time in Puerto Rico. Brent Albright would defeat him for the title in New York, and then Pearce regained the title in Philadelphia. Now, both men have been touching the corners there, and that's something you really have to look out for, that your opponent doesn't sneak up and sneak one in on you. A lot of strategy at play here by these two masters of the human game of chess. There's the champ, Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. Used a shortcut, no surprise there, but can't turn your back on Albright. He is such a warrior, such a battler, and again, these big right hands, and well, aided by being wrapped in that tough bull rope. And that bull rope can tear flesh. It can, you rub that in the eyes, it can blind your opponent, and it looks as if Albright might rain down the bull rope aided right hands. Great crowd here in Robstown, counting in unison with the challenger, trying to urge him on to once again defeat Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. We talked about the crowd. How about the legendary Nature Boy Ric Flair? Someone who knows a little something about the NWA World title. He's in attendance, will be inducted into the NWA Hall of Fame later on tonight. Wow, what an incredible event this is here in Robstown. And now the champ again. Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander now. Choking out Brent Albright with that bull rope, and he is going to try and look for the win here. Going to drag his opponent to all four corners. Not going to be easy. And there you see the ring general, Albright, trying to hold on to that bottom rope. He does not want to get taken for a ride here.
Come on, get a corner for two. Get a corner for two.
I mentioned my surprise that the NWA would sanction such a matchup with the title on hand, but that just goes to show you, it's come to this. This war between these two over the championship has come to this. This is the only way to settle it. And how fitting, a bull rope match deep in the heart of Texas. He's reeling, but is he going to be going for a ride, a little tour around the corners of the ring? So unorthodox, this type of matchup, and if you're not used to it, it's going to change your strategy. I mean, that bull rope certainly can be a weapon, as we've seen, but it also can be a hindrance. You know, in a normal type of matchup, if you're at the disadvantage, you can roll out of the ring. You've got the referee's count to work with. You can get away with your opponent, away from your opponent in this type of matchup. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and you got to think the action is going to stay on the inside. Well, just as I talked, Albright is sent crashing to the arena floor. Oh, give me a break here. See Edward Vanderpyle now going to work. Using that rope on the outside. Usually the only ropes Vanderpyle goes for is maybe a red vine.
Right there.
And now Albright firing back up, boots to the midsection. You know, this is a marathon, not a sprint. A true war of attrition. And momentarily ago, Scrap Iron let his cockiness get the best of him, but wow, a shot right to the side of the head by that cowbell. He might be knocked out here. He hit him right in the side of the head, right in the temple, and I believe that, yes, that sharp edge of that cowbell has busted Albright open.
I got your replay, man.
This could end up being the difference maker, folks. Albright busted open. This type of matchup, grueling as it is, now the blood beginning to flow, gonna flow into the eyes of Albright. You can't get your opponent to the corners if you can't find them. And now, look, sadistic by the champion, just grinding that bell into the forehead, the lacerated forehead, and now tasting the blood. Give me a break. That's no way for a champion to act. Despite the tenacity, despite the toughness of Albright, there's been one or two occasions in this matchup that I think Pearce could have gone for the win, perhaps could have put his opponent away, but he wants to dish out punishment. You'll remember, this man Albright defeated him for the title once in New York. That is not something that sits well with the current champion, and something that he still strives revenge. But all of those things combined might not be enough on this night, because Pearce is at the top of his game. And he is more sadistic and aggressive than perhaps we've ever seen him, fans. And I'll tell you what, that's saying something. Now, well, little wrinkle in the strategy here. Look at this. Hog tying him, if you will. Of course, Texas known for their rodeos, championship matches. Neither one of these guys are in their first rodeo. That's 2 corners. This strategy could really pay off for Pearce because Albright right now is not going to be able to get back to a vertical base. That's 3 corners for the champion. 1 more, and he will retain the 10 pounds of gold. If he could just lean and dive, this match is going to be over, but Albright fighting him off, pulling with every ounce of energy he has left. Albright again, somehow, someway, comes up with a desperation power slam. And again, as I mentioned before, now that momentum of the champion has been ceased. So those 3 corners that he touched, they are now null and void, and the champ is back to square one. Albright now going right back to those quick jabs with the lefts and then 1-2 punches with the right. Pearce to the outside, going up top. Oh, Albright too quick for him. He's in the wrong part of town, from the penthouse to the basement. Uh-oh. Could be receipt time. Might be a little buyer's remorse by Adam Pearce because he might be tasting the cowbell. Yes. But will it be a victory bell for Albright? Ringing that bell, and you got to think that the ears of the champ are ringing right now. That's for sure. Once again, using the bell, the rope, to his advantage. This thing's been back and forth. And at this point, it's really any man's game. But again, Pearce trying to roll to the outside. Of course, he's got the safety of Vanderpyle out there. Albright's going to have to be careful. Vanderpyle, always a threat. He's a real X factor in this. Uh-oh. Might be using that corner as a fulcrum. Might be using it for some leverage. And Pearce might be meeting that steel. Yes! Both men have proven highly effective at using their environment and especially that cowbell. And now Pearce getting a little taste of his own medicine. It can't taste good. And now the crimson red flows down the bald cranium of the champion. And he is getting everything that he dished out earlier. Only question is, I think that Albright, is he going to be more focused? I don't think he's going to turn and jaw with the fans. He's going for the win. He's trying to become a 2-time NWA heavyweight champion, much like his opponent. And he is 1 step away from doing just that. You can see the referee holding up the 3 fingers, but that 4th one is the toughest one to get in. Vanderpyle getting involved. And Vanderpyle, I think, really cost Albright the championship there, at least for this time, because Albright now is going to have to start all over again. They have sweat, they have bled, they have paid the price. This is what the NWA title means to these 2 incredible competitors. Now how about this? He's got Pearce up in a fireman's carry position, hitting the corners, but so is Adam Pearce. Pearce has matched the 3 corners, and I don't think that Albright realizes that. Every step of the way, Pearce has been right there with him. And the referee, Albright had hit all 4 corners. The referee didn't see it. Pearce hits it. And now the champion steals one.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is your winner and still NWA Worlds Heavyweight Champion, Adam Pearce.
Well, there's the official word. Referee didn't see that Albright had touched all 4 corners, but as they say, possession 9/10 of the law. That's the man that possesses the gold, the scrap iron.
Look at me. Look at my face. You want to know what it's like? You want to know what it's like to want to be world champion? Look at my face. As I'm sitting here with blood coming out of my face and the NWA World title not in my hand. Adam Pearce, this has been going on since 2007, since September 1st of 2007 in Puerto Rico, when you stole the NWA World title away from me. And it took a year to get a rematch. And in that rematch in New York City, in front of 2,000 screaming New Yorkers, I proved to you and I proved to the entire world that I am the true NWA World Champion.
Now that was a truly bloody war. I can remember doing those post-match interviews, and let me tell you folks, these two men absolutely hated one another. Pearce and Albright were on the top of many cards in many towns fighting for this championship. Now, you won the title back for a second time from Albright in Philadelphia on September 8th, 2008.
Right.
What was it like being in Philadelphia? There's an awful lot of, some people could even call it bad blood in that town when it comes to pro wrestling.
I think that's without question. I think Philadelphia, for those people who haven't been there, and I know you have and I have, unfortunately, many times, I think Philadelphia is a cesspool. In fact, I think it's a dump. And I feel for the people that have grown up in Philadelphia and don't know anything outside of those borders, as it were, that they have no concept of what real living is. And that extends invariably to the wrestling fans in that town, the people who, they're maniacs. They're lunatics, and they're used to and accustomed to seeing people gouge at each other and blood being spilled and tables and fire and this and that. And yes, I had to enter into this war zone. I had to go into the Battle Dome of Philadelphia and face Brent Albright. And this was the vindication that I needed. This was the glory, the reclaiming of the glory, where I took this, the 10 pounds of leather and gold, for the second time. Now, fans of the NWA may know that Philadelphia and the company have kind of a storied yet adversarial history, Marquez. When Shane Douglas, who wrestling fans may be familiar with, was crowned World's Heavyweight Champion in that area. And what did he do?
Well, he threw that championship down.
He threw the championship, the World's Championship, down and declared himself champion. Now this is champion of what? A garbage dump? Champion of what? A toilet. Shane Douglas is champion of a toilet. I'm a real champion. And I'm sorry that I had to take the belt back in Philadelphia. But what I'm not sorry about is restoring it on that pedestal that it needed to be. And that's where it's going to stay.
Let's play a little word association if we can. There's an awful lot of people banging on your door. And let's start first with Sean X-Pac Waltman.
Deadbeat.
Simply.
Deadbeat. This is a man who calls himself a degenerate. He calls himself a degenerate. He's always telling people he's got 2 words for them. And I wouldn't dare repeat what those 2 words are. It's disgusting. This is a man who, for well over 4 or 5 years, has been riding my coattails all over the Southwest, all over the Eastern Seaboard, up in Canada, all over the place. Why? Because he's not great, and he wants to taste greatness. He'll never taste greatness. He's a degenerate. He's a deadbeat. Deadbeat.
Okay.
Sean Waltman's a deadbeat.
Okay, your opinion there. So our NWA national champion, Phil Shatter.
Neanderthal. I already told you, 6'5", 275 pounds. Now, in a world of professional sports where people are scrutinizing and talking about performance-enhancing drugs, I'd like to know what governing body is going and knocking on Phil Shatter's door. I've been in the ring with the man, do you understand? A vice-like grip. There are very few men on this planet that can take me with one hand and squeeze and make me say uncle. Now, I didn't say uncle, I said auntie when he squeezed my hand. Neanderthal.
A man you know very well, Colt Boom Boom Cabana.
This one I struggle with, and it's simply because I've watched Colt Cabana from his birth, as it were, in professional wrestling. I was there for his very first days inside of a wrestling ring, and so it pains me to feel the way that I do today about Colt Cabana. I struggle with wanting to love this man for all that he is, and I'm not going to discount his talents, but mentally, there's something goofy, something cuckoo about a man who calls himself Boom Boom, don't you think? Boom Boom. Colt Cabana. I'm not going to associate any words with Colt Cabana. In fact, I've donated too many of my words to him already.
Okay, fair enough. How about Charlie Haas?
A technician a man from deep in the heart of Texas, a champion, someone who I can respect, and I don't think I need to tout his accolades or tell anybody what he's done in professional wrestling. I think that they can do their own little internet research and find all that out. But what I will say is, having tangled with the man and looked him in his eyes, I can tell you that Charlie Haas is tough as nails, but unfortunately for him, didn't get the job done, did he? So come on, Charlie, come back again for round 2. At least he's a man.
Okay. Now, in this area, there's a man that most everybody knows. He's Hollywood's own Joey Ryan.
Joey Ryan. Now, I think if we were going to take ourselves really down a trip down memory lane, David Marquez, you would know that I know Joey Ryan probably better than anyone else. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
And Joey Ryan is a former World Tag Team Champion. And at that point in our period in our history, I would have loved to give Joey Ryan a hug and tout how great he is and extol the virtues, as it were, of Joey Ryan. But he's kind of turned another leaf, hasn't he? He's stepped over the fence onto the side of the grass that he thinks is greener, and now this is a man that only cares about what the people at home have to think about him. He basks in the glory of the cheers of the crowd and likes for the little girls and the teeny boppers to yell Joey and chant his name, and I could care less about that. I care about money and I care about power. And that's what this signifies. And if he was on the path that he should be on, he'd still be World Tag Team Champion. He wouldn't be walking around without gold around his waist, and he simply wouldn't be coming after me. This tells you how stupid Joey Ryan is.
The man does have an awful lot of dedication, and, you know, as you said, he was running across the globe with you, with Carl Anderson as one half of the World Tag Team Champions. I still have to say he does have an edge when the time does come, and he gets you on a better day.
Well, that's for nitwits like you to pontificate over, isn't it? Get in the ring, find out who's got an edge.
Well, as we go to the break, here's an edited version of Adam's match with Joey Ryan from a few months ago. I'll let you at home make up your own decisions to see if Joey Ryan could in fact beat Adam for the World's Heavyweight Championship. And when we return from the break, we'll take a new player on this world title scene. He's the Sheik.
Joey Ryan used to be accustomed to having Vanderpyle on the outside, helping him take those shortcuts, and now he's got to face that for perhaps the first time in his career. So a lot of very interesting factors here in this NWA World Heavyweight title matchup. Again, here in Southern California. There you see the champion holding on to the gold. Well, that's symbolic. He's held on to the gold with great ferocity for quite a long time. Joey Ryan here, certainly the hometown boy here on the West Coast. There you see what it's all about. NWA World Heavyweight title, but will that hometown advantage be enough? Can he ride that wave of momentum? Can he ride it all the way to the crest, to the championship here tonight? Crowd here in Oceanside showing their support for the challenger, but oh, look at that. Just as I mentioned, this is something that Joey's gonna have to face now. He's used to having that to his advantage, speaking of Vanderpyle on the outside. But that split second turned his back on the champion, and now the champion out of the gates first, going on the offensive. Now taking a second to pose there, a little photo opportunity for the fans here in Oceanside. I didn't see too many flash bulbs going off. But the champ is in control, and that's what's important here, folks. May not like the way he went about it, but he uses his resources to his advantage. That's one of the big reasons he's held the title for so long, and now those chops. And you can expect a champion. Wow, he's biting him here in the corner. Referee Chris Massey's got to get in there and admonish the champ, and well, Adam Pearce is not beyond bending the rules to the full extent. And I'm sure he'll break them the second the referee's not looking. Joey Ryan now firing up here on the champion, trying to get something going, trying to uncork the offense. High elevation backdrop by the challenger. Trying to capitalize here. You got to stay on top of Adam Pearce. And now look at this. Taste of his own medicine, and well, getting a taste of the champ in his mouth there, biting him. Adam Pearce, once he's in the driver's seat, is so tough because he makes very few mistakes. The champ has seen it all, he's done it all. So when you have the upper hand against Adam Pearce, well, you got to do everything in your power to keep it. Because opportunities against the champion are few and far between. Nice right hand there by Joey Ryan. Joey Ryan, much like the champion, a very well-rounded competitor. Joey can trade right hands. He can bring the fisticuffs, but just like that, he can high fly. Beautiful high elevation drop kick into the center of the ring, goes for the cover. I think Joey knew at that point that he wasn't going to pin the champion, but making him exert some offense. And look at this. The champ calling for a timeout. Of course, no timeouts in wrestling, and he won't get one here as Joey Ryan is putting the boots to him, stomping a mud hole here in the corner. Pearce knows that. Joey Ryan's got to be cautious. Can't let the champ take a shortcut. Now rains down the right hand. Winds it up and lets it fly. 10 big rights in the corner by Joey Ryan, and Pearce is down. Down goes the champion, center of the ring. Can Ryan capitalize? Here's the cover. And again, wow, that hand was coming down for 3. Will history be made here in Oceanside? And now this could cost Joey Ryan. He's getting frustrated. He couldn't beat the champ there, and now going high risk. Will it pay off? Will it be high reward? Or will this be a mistake that'll open the door for the champion? Time will tell. Oh, Pearce caught him. What a heads-up move. Caught him with a counter power slam. And the tables have turned here in this championship contest, but both men are down. Who will be the first to their feet? It's a test of wills at this point in the matchup. And right now the champ's title reign in jeopardy. Joey Ryan with a spear out of nowhere. Again, the hook of the leg. Could this be it? Oh, how close was that? Just a fraction of an inch away from a new champion. Joey Ryan has to be careful though. Don't let frustration take over. Stay on the offensive. Stay on the champion. That's the key to victory here. Will he do it? He can't give the champ a breather. He's just too good. He's too tough. Joey Ryan getting the crowd behind him again, but he took too much time. That let the champ get his boot up. Champ with a beautiful leg sweep takedown. The STO there out of the corner. You know, that may be the first time I've ever seen the champ use that maneuver. Pearce better get a sense of urgency. Joey Ryan's resilient. He better hurry up here or there's not going to be any water left in the pool. But the champ nails it now into the cover. Oh, not much of a cover though. I talked about not expecting a move like a splash. I also wouldn't expect the champion to not secure a deep hook of the leg. Real lackadaisical cover, and well, I think Pearce thought he had it there after the splash, looking frustrated. We talked about Joey Ryan not allowing that frustration to get the best of him, but right now the champion, oh, this could do it. If he can spike him with that signature pile driver, that will in fact be the end of this matchup. Huge super kick by Joey Ryan out of nowhere. Catches the champion. New history made here? No. How sudden was that impact by that super kick by Joey Ryan? I thought that could do it. Back and forth action. Both of these men, just when you think you have them put away, they surprise you. They've got something left. Another big time super kick right to the jaw of the champ. He might not be counting title wins. He might be counting sheep. Joey Ryan muscling him to the top. He could be going for high impact here, trying to put him away. Both men are slippery at this point in the matchup. They're sweaty. They're in a precarious position. Oh no. Don't tell me. Don't tell me the champ. I thought he was going to pile drive him from up there. Then perhaps looking for the sunset flip. But Joey Ryan able to come out the back door and nails Vanderpyle with a double axe handle. Low blow by the champion. Referee didn't see it. And spikes him with the pile driver. Not this way. Hooks the leg. That's going to do it, folks. Yes, 2 and 3. And the champion, once again, takes advantage. Pearce using Vanderpyle as a distraction. And you see Joey Ryan. After that pile driver, all he can do is look at the lights, not looking at his bright future as a champion, because it was not to be on this night. The champion, once again, holds on to the gold.
Welcome back to NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. We're still visiting with the world's champion, the Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. Now, not that long ago at the NWA Fan Fest in Charlotte, you were riding high off of victory over the American Dragon Bryan Danielson, and the next night you were scheduled to meet Phil Shatter for the title. But as many of you viewers know, the match was declared a no contest because you were attacked from behind by our North American champion, the Sheik. Now, what's your history with the Sheik? Why on earth would he be attacking you?
That's a great question. I have no history with the Sheik. I've had very minimal conversations with his management team going back the last couple of years. I don't even know exactly where this man comes from or what constitute him calling himself a Sheik. What I do know, David Marquez, is that this was a black eye on professional wrestling. This is something that was probably as deep an injustice as I could suffer. As you stated, I had defeated Bryan Danielson, who many people call the greatest wrestler in the world, which I, of course, object to. And proved otherwise when I beat him right in the middle of the ring 1, 2, 3 in Charlotte. And as I was riding high, as you said, on this pedestal, and I'm feeling great about myself, the next night I'm scheduled to get in the ring with the Neanderthal I referred to earlier, Phil Shatter. And who would rear his ugly, devious head? And there are many other adjectives I'd like to use right now, David Marquez, but I understand there are children watching this program. What kind of man, David Marquez, attacks a man from behind? What kind of man who calls himself a champion, the North American champion in the National Wrestling Alliance, attacks another man from behind? And not only that, what kind of man, David Marquez, would do his damnedest to render a man unconscious, unable to defend himself, laying there embarrassed in a heap in front of thousands of people, still wearing 10 pounds of gold, while this person, and I use that term, I don't even want to use that term, David Marquez. What kind of man does that? Is that even a man? Is that an animal? You tell me, you were there.
I was there. You know, he's certainly a different individual, and that's why I asked the question. I don't understand what motives what the motives are and why he would attack, because you know as well as I do, the organization has internal politics, and things can hold an individual back. But do you think something like this will hold the Sheik back? You know, he's going to be on our broadcasts here coming up soon.
I demanded that. I demanded that because as we've taken this trip down our memory lane together, and you've seen some of the things that I'm willing to do, Sheik, don't think for a second, I know you're watching, don't think for a second that whatever depths you stoop to, I won't go just a tad deeper. Don't think whatever limits you think you've pushed, I won't draw further. You want to cave the back of my head in with a chair. You want to leave me laying unconscious in front of my family for near 10 minutes. Force me into hospitals. Force me into a situation where I have to have a CAT scan to find out if all my marbles are rolling the right way. If you don't think I'll play that game. Brother, I wrote the book. I wrote the book, Marquez. I am not a man to be played with. I am not a man to be toyed with. I am the world's heavyweight wrestling champion. And if somebody wants to take that road, we don't have to go the high road. We can take it underground.
Well, I've seen you take it there plenty times before. You know, we only have a few more minutes left in the program, and I'd like to talk about the program itself, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Longtime wrestling fans know that the NWA is all about presenting professional wrestling in its truest form. And with this new program, it brings many new opportunities for us in the Los Angeles area. Now, tell me, what are you looking forward to the most in this new program?
Well, for me personally, David Marquez, it's all about showcasing greatness. It's all about taking shining stars of professional wrestling that maybe some of these people watching tonight aren't familiar with and introducing superstars and legends into their home. And that's what the National Wrestling Alliance is really all about. And of course, selfishly, that includes me. So, hello, Los Angeles. I'm the heavyweight champion of the world, Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. And it's been your pleasure to spend an hour with me. And yours too, Four Eyes.
Well, I got a few more questions. You know, in a couple of weeks, you're scheduled to face Scorpio Sky on television. Your thoughts on that match?
Scorpio Sky's an athlete, probably unparalleled. And I don't care what sport it is. I think Scorpio Sky could play basketball in the National Basketball Association. I think he runs a 4.40 and was touted to play Division I college football, but is elected to jump into professional wrestling. And I've tangled with him a time or two, and I think he's got all the tools except one: 10 pounds, leather, and gold. And when he's here in a couple of weeks, he'll come in that way and leave just the same.
And, you know, you're going to be scouting these guys, I'm sure. Who do you believe is going to be a breakout star of 2010?
You know, that's not for me to decide. That's for the pundits, the critics, the experts at home to decide who the stars are. I'm confident in knowing what I do. I could care less about what you think or what the people at home think or what the kids and their moms and pops in the arenas think. Because I'm not even a star, David Marquez. You know that, right? I'm not a star. I'm a legend. I'm a legend. And all else pale in comparison, my friend. All else.
Well, you know, we had an internet question at NWAHollywood.com. This came through. This individual wanted to know, who out there would you want to face? Say if you had a magic wand, for example, whether it was from the past or right now, who would, if there were a dream match in your mind, who would that be against?
If I could face anybody, and this is my dream, this is
your dream.
If I could wrestle one man, and I think this would probably be the greatest match in the history of professional wrestling, David Marquez. If I could enter the ring in front of a sold-out arena and stare across the ring at myself, I would love to see who would win in a match between Adam Pearce and Adam Pearce. But you know what I do know, David? I know that the winner would be Adam Pearce.
Very interesting. Very interested indeed. So here in the closing minutes of our broadcast, I'd like to invite you all back next week, right here on this channel, for the premiere of NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, where you'll see Chicago's Colt Boom Boom Cabana, the NWA North American Champion, The Sheik, and we'll introduce you to a true rising star in the National Wrestling Alliance, Willie Mack. And in your main event, a fantastic main event, I must add, T.J. Perkins will face Hollywood's own Joey Ryan. Now, Adam, this hour went by way too quick, and I do thank you for coming out. Thank you very much. That's our world's heavyweight champion, the scrap iron, Adam Pearce. So, for the National Wrestling Alliance, I'm David Marquez. Good night, and we'll see you next week for NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood.